Okay, I've started the recording now, Paul. Um,
I think we'll start.
yeah,
Uh,
it's about 15. That's fine. Let's get started. Let's roll
yes.
it.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's great to be here today with all our amazing speakers. I personally am very excited to moderate another session from WOD India. I'm Payal Sandhu Khurana, the ambassador for India for WOD. And I would like to introduce our new series to you, WLO. Across the world, women are constantly creating and ideating. They are innovating and transforming as well. But most importantly, they are finally leading more than ever before. Which is why WOD India is starting a new series, which we kickstart with our first showcase today. Women led organizations, or WLO, is all about highlighting architecture and design firms in India that are either founded and led by or supported by women, making them truly empowered and inclusive. But before we start, let's take a brief look at WOD. Great. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen. Thank you so much. What you're seeing on the screen are pictures of our earlier WOD India chapter events. So it's been a great journey. I personally believe greatly in the power of women, and WOD India gives us a powerful platform to have conversations that no one has attempted before in our industry. And it was pure coincidence that I met Harsha last year and we started on WOD's India story just in December 2020. And it's been a roller coaster since then, which is good. Our first two events, which you can see, one in Bangalore and the second in Mumbai, were both hybrid events. They were so well attended, and the positivity, encouragement, and interest coming our way shows us that we are on completely the right path. And as the first women's knowledge and support group or forum in India, I think WOD can help every woman find her voice, her goals, her aspirations. That's just all that we want to do. I'm now going to ask Harsha Kotak, who is the founder of WOD, to introduce the original WOD platform and how it led to us being here today. Harsha?
Sure. Thank you, Paul. I'm going to let Paul run the show today, guys, because she's doing a great job. I'm just going to do a brief introduction, as Paul said, of what WOD is. WOD was started in UK in 2018 with the sole purpose of providing a platform to women to come together, to learn, to share, and to grow. Now, you might say there are so many women's organizations, so what's different? There isn't actually. It is a platform for women. That's it. That's the sole reason we exist. But there are things like it is solely for women in commercial design and workplace design, a platform that we needed for ourselves, right? So we do not have women from hospitality joining in or from residential design joining in. It's just for women in workplace design. And also, the other key differentiator would be that it's a global platform. And the living proof is our show today, WLO. All the speakers come from different zones around the world, right? So we've got speakers from New York, from China, from Singapore, from Bangalore, from Mumbai, from London. And that truly shows that WOD is a global platform. We bring women together to share our knowledge, to learn how we do things in our own countries, and grow that way. And of course, make those crucial connections at the end of the day. So today, in last 3 years, we've moved to different countries in Europe, in UK, and now in India, and we have about 2,000 plus members, members who are designers, architects, workplace strategists, workplace experts, color therapists, um, a lot of saleswomen, mainly anyone who's involved in workplace design. That's the extension of it. We come together to mainly learn and network, and how we do that is via our amazing events, mainly live events that we've done in different countries now, and a lot of digital events for last almost a year. And we not only do women-led events like the ones we've done in India, which are great. Power Women of Design is one of the series. This other one is the WLO. But that's not all we do. Our events are very educational. So we do talk about workplace strategy. We talk about workplace after COVID. We do a lot of design festivals like the Clerkenwell Design Week. We do the London Festival of Architecture. We hosted at Design Museum of Barcelona. We do a lot of workshops for our members, like the color workshop that we did. We have speakers who are launching their books. So a good mix of things. We do a lot of parties as well. I mean, come on, we have to have a glass of wine at the end of the day, right? So it's a mixed bag. It's up to you what you want to get out of it. And now, as Paul mentioned, we launched in India recently, and we've got an amazing response from the industry there. Women there want to join in, they want to be a part of this. And the industry has responded really well, and we are having I think about 6 or 7 more events this year that we've already booked for. So if you're interested, please just stay tuned in, join in. We've got a digital platform, which makes it amazing. You can meet other women there from around the globe again, um, have personal chats with them, make those business connections, come together, raise your profile, learn from each other. We run an academy on that platform with different workshops and courses. And all our events, even for India, will be posted there. So you can RSVP and join us on digital. It's free to join. So this is where you go. Go to our website, woduk.com, and just hit the join button. And you are on the app, online platform, and start connecting. So welcome to WOD, guys. Any questions, you can drop it in the chat box. But I'm going to hand over to Payal to move this conversation ahead. And good luck to the speakers on our panel today. I'm going to hand it over to Payal. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha. So as you can all see, today we have Space Matrix as our first showcase for WLO series in India. And I would like to welcome the 5 wonderful ladies we have who have joined us from literally across the globe. It's very easy to see why Space Matrix fits perfectly into our WLO initiative. I'm told by Titir when tasked with zeroing down to 5 speakers, because that's the number of speakers that me and Harsha like having on a panel. You really had a difficult time as there were so many contenders, and said that's such a powerful note to start on. So we have a great question and answer session planned for you. But before we start, I'm going to ask all our speakers to give a brief introduction about themselves. So should we start with Nishar, who's joining us earliest? It's really early morning for her today.
Thank you very much, Payal and Harsha, to welcome us and give us such a warm welcome with this wonderful platform. So very briefly, I'm Nishar Fatima. I'm director for our International Client Services arm, and I'm based out of New York, and it's been 10 years for me in the organization.
Thank you so much. Abby?
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Milsheimer. I am the Associate Director of Design based in Shanghai, originally from the United States.
Thank you. Anoma?
Thank you, Payal. I'm Anoma Baste, Associate Director for International Client Solutions, and I'm based in Singapore. I've been with Space Matrix now for 14 years. Thank you.
Titir?
Hi everyone, I'm Titir. I'm the Managing Director with Space Matrix and heading the Design Excellence Center for the firm as well. Based out of Mumbai, little over 11 years now with this organization.
Thank you. Suzanne, last but not the least, I'm hoping.
Hi, thank you, Payal and Harsha. I'm Suzanne Tan. I'm the Director of Workplace Strategy and Insights. I'm from Singapore. I live in Singapore. I'm, I guess, the newest member of the Space Matrix family, but I have been in the industry for about 18 years.
Thank you so much all, and a warm welcome to you. I'm very excited about what comes next. I hope you are as well. Let's have some fun. So I'm going to go straight into our question answer round, which forms the bulk of our session today. Question number one is actually to all of you. As individuals and women, how would you describe your personal and professional pivot points that have led you to your current positions? Uh, we can start with Anoma.
Thank you. Thank you, Payal. So I would say that my career growth has not been linear at all. It's been a jungle gym and an incredible journey. I started off exploring and doing all sorts of things when I started my career. That was in India. I was working for an NGO. I did a lot of advanced locality management programs. I was involved in urban planning initiatives. I ran my own graphic design firm, architecture and interior design practice, and I also taught at university level in architecture school. I mean, I've always been an inherently curious person, so I just wanted to explore. In around 2007, my husband got an opportunity to work in Singapore, and that's when we moved and we made that transition. That was a pivot, and I started working with Space Matrix. I was very clear that I did not want to do design anymore because I had done that already. And since I've always been the kind who wants to do something else, I said, I want to learn something about the business. And I started off working in their marketing team. I then transitioned into a business development role where I understood how to manage financial things and contract management, and evolved into a client management role, which was an incredible experience, you know, frontline and center. Hello, hi, Pratma.
Sorry. Sorry, guys.
You have to mute somebody. Harsha, you may have to use
Yeah,
the-
yeah, I'm on it. It's not letting me mute it. I'm going to ask Purnima to turn off.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries, I'll wait.
I think that's the beauty of the virtual world, right?
Yes.
I was about to say it happens all the time. So it's the fun part.
That was someone from Calcutta, I think. They were speaking in Bengali, is it? So I could recognize that. So good one. Anyways, so as I was saying that I transitioned into several roles, and you know, this year has been another huge pivot because given COVID, we had to really look at our strategic planning and operational initiatives, and I was a huge part of that within the organization, along with managing the key clients. So my personal pivot, if I look back in my career journey, was really came in my early 30s when I had two routes to choose from, and one was that I wanted to become a mother in an extremely fast-paced professional career that I had with long hours, which you know is normal in our industry. Um, and at that point, I was being offered a promotion, and which I had really worked hard for. And being a mother at that stage meant that I would have to put my career into first gear mode when I was kind of revving the engine at full speed, which was a huge dilemma at that point. But I think that was the best decision that I made. Um, Focusing on priorities in life versus work in is what many women struggle with. And what I learned was when you try to hold on to something too hard, it's counterproductive. It's like holding sand in your palm, and the more you press, the more it runs out through your fingers. And if you hold up your palm and cradle it lightly, the sand stays. So I would say that was, you know, something that I learned from that whole experience. When it came to my professional pivot, I would say I came back to work within 5 months of having my son, and the pace of work changed. I slowed down, but I slowly picked up. And by the time he was 10 months old, I was back to my day travels. And that was a personal decision that I took, but I had a huge support network. And the firm has supported me with you know, management training and leadership training, which and with very good mentors within the organization, that has helped and contributed to my professional and personal growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So lovely to hear that. And I love the jungle gym. And it does seem that you did so many things, you know. A lot of us go through a very, very literal career path, and you've reached there, but you've taken a circuitous route, and a lovely metaphor about sand. Really lovely. Abby, I'm going to go next to you. I'm going to go with who I can see on the screen.
Sure, thanks, Payal. I'm going to start with something that I would consider a major influence for me, and it was actually something when I was quite small. I would say I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I grew up in Ohio, quite a rural part of Ohio, and my father was actually born in Chicago, but my grandparents and he moved over at a very young age. But being a proud dad that he was, he wanted to take myself and my brothers to visit his hometown, right? So we all piled in the car, as you do in the Midwest, and we drove 9 hours to Chicago, Illinois. And I still remember to this day the feeling that I had approaching the city. I had goosebumps covering my body. It was quite late at night. So you see the city, the vast city, from a distance, getting closer and closer. And for me, that was just something that I was in awe as a young child. And that was something that sparked curiosity for me completely. And it made me realize that things out there are drastically different. And it was up to me to experience them. So after graduation, I, of course, wanted to move to a city. And what other city did I choose other than New York? And funny enough, my father's first visit to New York City was with me, all of my things in a U-Haul, and dropping me off as I embark on my career. And that's where I started in the workplace design. I would say a major pivot for me was around 2011. That's when a major recession hit in the US. And I was only a few years into my career at the time. And at that time, I was working for a small firm. I was the only interior designer. And during the worst part of that recession, I was let go from my job. Being a young designer in New York, I did not have a large cushion to land on. And it was either move home or figure it out. So I opted for the latter, and definitely forced me to think outside of the box because there was not a lot of people hiring at that time. And I ended up landing a consultant at an experiential marketing agency. And that really opened my eyes because I had been working on some large scale projects over the course of a few years and still hadn't even seen anything built, right? And in the experiential marketing world, in the matter of a couple months, it's been conceptualized, realized, and torn down. But what that experience brought me was more understanding of brand and more understanding of what it meant to curate an experience. And that for me is something that I've carried throughout my career. And I really feel like it's added a lot of value for me in terms of what I bring to the table. From there, I ended up going on to continue in workplace design and landed a job at an international company, which took me to working in the UK and also in China. And now here I am at Space Matrix leading design across mainland China. And I look back to me as a young child and thinking how drastically different Chicago, Illinois was from Ohio. And here I sit in Shanghai. So it's quite funny. So.
Lovely. I can just see the U-Haul and I can see you approaching the city. It was so vivid. It was like we're back in some movie and I could, just start picturing myself as you. That's absolutely lovely, Abby. And I think you did the right thing. Experience and brand and user experience is all the bywords today. And you've been doing that since 2007. So great. Titir, what about you?
No, I can't pick a really one pivot point, but when I think about the personal side of me, I would like to share. Born and brought up in Calcutta, in the environment that, be it in school or at home, cultural, creative activities were always given the utmost importance. So I was really privileged to come across people who are this creative, quirky, like always inspiring. But I think a subtle or but a huge impact that had or influence that had on me as a person is when I started, traveling hugely, meeting different people, working with them. It's the diverse culture, background, the personality. It's not about just working with them, talking with them. I at times like sit and observe people, like even in an unknown city that you go, you just walk around and see so much that has I could kind of gather from there. So it's not one, but when I look back as a person, it has so much influence on me. I think that way of stepping out, being more receptive, more curious, which I was not. I was more, comfortable in my familiar zone. That familiarity was very high on me. But when I started doing that, I have grown as a person. And when I take it back to the professional thing as a pivot point, at very early days in my work, actually, I got the opportunity to meet the end users, the customers directly. I remember initially those were feedback, people talking about concerns. That one particular project I remember, uh, when the client was sharing their, the experience after walking into, I could see the emotional connect they had with that space. They were talking about how they're enjoying. One said that, I don't feel like going home, I want staying there. And all these things actually made me realize that we have an opportunity to impact so many lives, right? The things that we are doing, it's not just a workplace design, the space we are creating, the kind of environment we are stitching together, the story we are weaving. We have the power, or we have the capability to enable people to thrive. That changed me, the way I started looking at things. I would say that my approach towards design, the way at looking at things, to problem solving approach, everything became more humane, more human centric. And I'm glad about it, because that is something I still follow in whatever I do in my role today. So yes, that I would say a kind of a big influence that I had.
Thank you so much. And you're right, we designers tend to get into silos. We think we're designing the best for the people who are out there. And when you meet those people, you have that aha moment that, okay, I didn't think about this because, this is the user. So that's always very, very empowering. I'm from Jamshedpur, Titir. So I grew up 4 hours away from Kolkata and I had to spend a lot of weekends. We had a train from Jamshedpur to Calcutta. It was always weekend shopping, and so I know what you're talking about when you talk
Around
about
in the city, true.
culture, the quirkiness, and so deeply embedded in literature and the arts. I don't think any place in India has that actually, other than Bengal. So thank you so much. Suzanne, you are next.
Yeah, well, like Anoma and Abby and Tita, our surroundings and environments really influence who we are and, who we become. And for me, I've landed in Singapore back home, where I know I belong, by way of studying and living in London, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing. It goes on, and transitioning through industries from master planning to technology. I had a restaurant. And finally,
I think.
oh, chocolate. And finally landed in interior design. But I'll say for me, my personal pivot point was when I was given the opportunity to work and live in Beijing. And it was during the pre-Olympic days. And really, the adventure, the excitement, the trials and tribulations, the smog, the no swimming pools. As a young woman navigating a different culture, that really taught me a lot of life lessons. And at that same time, it also ignited my curiosity and love for anthropology, cultural and social anthropology. And it's really about the way people, as a study of the humankind, and the way people behave depending on different environments. And to this day, that has very much shaped me. So that was a personal pivot point. Professionally, I would say about 10 years into my foray as a workplace strategist, building physical spaces, and I do a lot of engagement with people. So I have workshops, I have interviews, And I started noticing that there was a deep rumbling in organizations where people would speak of actually drama and what drama and unhappiness. And what really came up was that toxic cultures, conversations around mental health, and which it really affected productivity and well-being of people. So that was a pivot point for me. And I realized that although space is an enabler for workplace transformation, really true cultural transformation lies with the heart of people. And it has to be led by positive leaders. So for me, I spent the last 6 years studying, re-educating myself in positive organizational psychology. And looked at adapting, applying principles and approaches to the way I engage with people and how we coach leaders through all the change management activities that I do. And so now I bring this into all that I do. I try as I can, because I truly believe that workplace transformation can be a catalyst and a force for good. And that's what I believe, that when you fully leverage it, building the workplace is a powerful unifying goal that brings people together. And that's where you get flourishing and thriving communities. So it goes beyond aesthetics, it goes beyond function. But like Tita said, it's to the heart of it, that very humane nature of it all.
Lovely. So I delved myself a lot into workplace, but I hadn't thought about positive psychological therapy for client leaders. That's very interesting, because I completely believe you when you say that, magic happens when human behavior and good space meet. Neither of them can stand without the other. But it's very, very interesting. I'm going to look up your work, Susan. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes. So for me, I actually want to share my story, which is more beyond, anything on my LinkedIn profile or anything which very few people actually know about these things in life. And I want to share by saying that, before even I could start talking about my professional or personal pivot points, I think you have to know a little bit about my life journey, which is, I think, is a little unconventional. And I have a very sweet coincidence in life, which very few people know about. And when I was sitting and looking at this whole women-led organization series, I stepped back and I realized that actually my life has been a women-led life. I've been raised by a strong mother. My school principal used to be a woman as well. And if that wasn't enough, my university dean, who was a smart and a very empathetic woman, who guided us in many ways. And now Space Matrix, actually, if you look at Space Matrix, our founder, Shagufta, she really empowered me with many amazing opportunities along the way. So I would say, later I realized that subconsciously I was finding myself in these powerful women. And that's who I wanted to be, in the position where I could make an impact, right? But I couldn't put two together until later I realized that actually there's a dot which has been drawing parallels in my life. And like many of us, right, as a growing little young girl, I was very shy and underconfident person. But not to take away the fact that men also has a very, very important role to play in my life. And starting from, like Abby, you said, your father, my father has been a huge influence in my life as well. And he actually made me realize a very powerful thing when in my growing years, that, if you don't dream, uh, if your dreams don't scare you enough, then they are not big enough. And he taught me how to dream, actually. And since then my life has changed. Like, he said that do not put your dream in the square box, just let it be as big as you could imagine. And I felt so much more confident since then. So in many ways, I think also, he used to always tell me that he couldn't travel much, but he wanted me to travel the world. And he used to tell me that I want to see the world through your eyes. So I went to Germany in 2008. And since then, I did a lot of traveling. In fact, I did a solo backpacking in almost 21 countries when I was there. And that is a different level of courage I got from that experience. So that's more on the personal side, multiple pivot points and multiple realizations in the growing years. But professionally, if I talk about Space Matrix or any, that's been my major part of the career journey. All the pivot points have come through me as an opportunities. And as they say, when opportunity knocks the door, you shouldn't be turning to a window, just open the door and grab the opportunity and make the most of it. And that's exactly what I did. And because of that, I actually consider myself a serial opportunist, if you will. And it's because of, whether it's a journey from being a designer 10 years ago to now director and managing our North America operations, or even a path through, different geographies from Bangalore to Singapore to New York. And for young girls who are listening right here on this call, I think one of the most impactful pivot point in my professional career was the journey with Space Matrix, where I decided to switch from designer to more on the business side and strategy side. And by no means I'm saying that design is not, but it's, for me, it was that pivot point where I shifted that dynamic. And at that time, it wasn't an easy decision because I'm very much a creative soul by heart. But today, if I look back, I have no regrets whatsoever. So that's been a little bit of my journey about how I had made my path through so far.
Thank you so much, Nishar. And it's a lovely thought about what your father told you about dreams. That's beautiful. I see one common thread coming across from everyone: travel. Travel seems to have helped and empowered and maybe guide everybody to where. So let's hope we are through with COVID and we can all travel more. I'm just going to go to my question number 2, which is, I would love to know how many of you have worked closely with each other, and if there is continuous overlap and cross collaborations between your roles, between the 5 of you. Suzanne, do you want to take that?
Yeah, well, all of us work closely together. And our roles cut across all geographies and time zones. And you can imagine our calls would be really early in the morning, really late at night, trying to coordinate our times. And it's always that good morning, good afternoon, good evening conversation that starts off everything. And actually, the 5 of us are on the Global Management Committee. So we're at that decision-making level, and we have to work together on the global initiatives. So at least 3 times a year, I'll say 4 times a year, we would have to meet on these initiatives. But besides that, on a project level, we have to collaborate. And we essentially follow the flow of information throughout the project life cycle. It's not so much that, we're hand from one to the other, but we ebb and flow in the project life cycle, very much depending on who takes that frontal role, depending on what stage it is. So, for example, you'll always have Anoma and Nisha right at the front, and they understand our clients the best, their client services, where there are discussions and conversations on new ways of working or the future of work, and where it's relevant, they bring me in. And then it goes on into design. And Abby, I think you can.
Yep.
You can.
I'll take it from here. I think the perfect description is actually a project that we're working on now. It's a project that's based here in Shanghai. It's 20,000 square meters roughly. We're leading design from here. But Suzanne had a role very early on in the workplace strategy bit. Unfortunately, we couldn't have her come over, but we managed to kind of pivot and figure out how to do that remotely. But the client was essentially interested in exploring some new ways of working. So she helped us strategize all of that bit. Being such a large project, Teeter's team actually had a hand in many of the design deliverables, and Teeter and I would catch up on kind of a weekly or bi-weekly basis, primarily to talk about resource. Funny enough, Anoma just reached out, I would say it's been like 2 weeks ago now, I think, where this particular client is actually, they have a project coming up in Singapore. So we did a whole lessons learned with everything that we learned here working with the client, specifically with the Singapore team. And then Nishar is obviously has her hands in the bit as we, continue to form this relationship from a global perspective. So I think in summary, it's definitely that none of this happens in silos. Like each of us have our own roles, but if they aren't interconnected, some communication is going to get lost. And it's important that we do have that collaboration throughout the life cycle of the project.
Thank you so much, Abby. I also loved something that Titir was saying yesterday and now I'm understanding that. So I didn't realize that all of you work so closely with each other. And I think one of you mentioned, I'm not sure if it was Titir, that we talk so much with each other all the time. Let's have outsiders looking into our conversation. So that throws some clarity into that sentence now. I'm going to go into the next question. I want to know, and so many of you leaders here, you speak about so many more. There's Shrigupta who founded Space Matrix. Would any of you be able to tell me, maybe Titir, if this growth of women leaders at Space Matrix was organic or was it carefully planned?
So I'll just start with Shagufta had been a role model for so many of us, right? I'll go back to the days when I started as a junior designer. But since then, I've always seen strong, powerful women leaders in several verticals in the organization, right? And it has continued. So many of my colleagues, like me, they have grown with the organization, right? Taking larger roles, larger responsibilities, growing into this leadership role, while many of them joined at leadership levels. But I think at every point the driving force had been that whole competency, that passion to do more, never settle, do something more, achieve greater. Those kind of thing had somewhere nurtured every individual as stronger leaders for all the women and men that we have in the organization. Now, even if I look that all of us, when we have this conversation with our team members regularly, it's more about understanding what their aspiration is. We try to find that what is their correct career opportunity or the growth path, and it's always the capability, and that had been something that we had been talking about, right? I will say that at no point any opportunity or any that thought had been that was given, and any additional thought was given because that person is a woman. And more importantly, neither anyone was deprived of because that person was a woman. So I think that approach or unbiased approach that we had is what led to such an organic growth of women in the leadership roles. But having said that, we are conscious about the numbers that the industry benchmark, which talks about a healthy balance in the organization. So we did take a look and to see that where do we stand, have we overachieved, where are we? And honestly, super happy when we look at it and we feel proud where we are. And I've seen my colleagues actually talking with a lot of pride about it, and that includes both men and women in the organization. So while it has been an organic growth, I think we are conscious and we want to maintain where we are, we want to keep it that way.
Sure. Anoma, would you like to add on to that?
Sure. Thank you, Payal. So as Titir was saying, she spoke about our founder who's been a role model for most women. Most of us on the panel have been fortunate enough to have worked with her at some point or the other. And I remember the stories that she told us that when she started the firm in 2001, every time a lady member of the team had to follow her spouse or move to another country for whatever reason, Shagufta would open up an office in that country. And in fact, that was our growth strategy at that point. And many of our regional offices started like that. But over the last 4 years, when we've had new leadership and our new, global CEO who's on the call, Harsh Chaudhary, he came over. Our growth has been more structured. Women have always been the backbone of our organization, but it's now a conscious decision to measure and maintain parity between both men and women within the organization and on the board. And it's naturally based on merit. So currently we've got approximately 36% women on the executive board and over 43% women globally in our workforce, out of which 47% are heads and above. So as Titir rightly pointed out, it's a healthy balance and it's growing day on day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me properly? It says I'm getting a prompt that my internet is unstable.
We can
You can
hear
do
you.
well.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Anoma. I love so that means it was organic. And your growth strategy was organic, and now it's becoming planned. And I think that's what everybody else needs to follow. That's what WOD India is here to talk about. Let me go on to question number 4 now. And I'm going to pass it to Nishar. Uh, do you feel, and you're part of the client services team, do you feel having all of you wonderful women leaders has affected the firm's business growth in positively, and also its design offerings? And do you advertise this fact to clients and industry?
So it's
Do
an
you think it makes
interesting
a
one.
difference when you go out and as Space Matrix and say we have so many women? Do you feel the power of that?
So Payal, that's an interesting question, because as an individual, when I'm working with my team, I don't look myself as a woman working in the team, right? I'm working as an individual, and that's really what we believe as an organization too. And in Space Matrix, I think empowerment of women really starts from top down, right from our CEO, Harsh Chaudhary, and his vision to be able to make the company more diverse, like how Anuma mentioned, as diverse as possible. And that sort of spilled into the DNA of the organization. And in fact, we truly believe that diverse leadership can make an impact culture, on brand, or even in the business growth for the operations for that matter. And I think with that comes a diversity in thoughts, diversity in perspective, which I think eventually also results in a building an innovation capital, if you will, and it uplifts the overall performance, I feel. But having said that, I think the biggest advantage of diversity is that it's not only about consensus building, right? It's not only about the agreement in the boardroom. It's about how you are questioning the status quo and to get more insights, right? So that's how I would pivot the whole thing. And referring back to your question, that when it comes to a design offerings, I personally believe that the strength lies in diversity and not focusing on abilities from one gender over the other, truly. And answering to the question that do we advertise to the clients and industry, I would say absolutely yes. We do proudly advertise the fact that we are a diverse organization, not focusing on, again, one gender or the other. And in fact, some of our clients have said it in the conversations that they often take a notice of our diverse team and at our diverse conversations at the table, and they believe that each person brings a very unique character strength which contributes to the deeper and in turn richer conversations for which are in favor of project or just in the conversation format. And if I have to actually put it in a very specific example which is quantifiable and it's personal to me, I can talk about North America. That from past 6 years, I have been managing North America region, and the financial contribution growth from North America has been on average, let's say 20-23% each year incrementally and consistently. And that would not have been possible. And like how we earlier mentioned, right, Abby mentioned that we all work in collaboration. And with these wonderful ladies on the call, from whether China, Singapore, India, or Australia. So I think the answer really lies in having the diverse team. And I would quote a Harvard Business Review um, quote here, where they said company that increased the number of women in the executive and board position by almost 30% experienced the 15% of a spike in their profitability. So there you go. Those are the facts. So evidently, I think it proves that women in the leadership are here to make an impact. But as a gender diversity or as a cultural diversity, everything contributes as a whole, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. Abby, would you like to add to that? Maybe from specifically from design offerings perspective?
Absolutely. I would like to amplify what Nishar said in terms of diversity. I know that it is actually one of the things that attracted me to Space Matrix, but that diversity of thought definitely leads to better problem solving. And I know we're here today talking specifically about, women, but it goes beyond sexual orientation, and it includes ethnicity, it includes race, as well as neurodiversity. And those things, when we have that diverse group around the table, it does impact our design offerings completely, which in turn impacts our clients' businesses and in return impacts ours. I was just reading an article the other day in Forbes magazine, specifically on gender-based leadership traits. Now, we as individuals, we have our own character and we have our own personality, which is important to bring to the table. And regardless of sexual orientation, we do carry both feminine and masculine traits. But it described the masculine approach as a more linear and more transactional, where the feminine approach, we have a tendency to consider how our decisions affect other people and how they manifest in the real world. This means thinking about our customers, thinking about specific people in specific departments. And this can also be described as having a more empathetic approach. And when I say empathetic, I don't necessarily mean kindness. It's about the ability to put oneself in the other's shoes, and the willingness to listen. And not just listen for the sake of listening, but really to understand, that notion of being human, and to lead with authenticity and compassion. I know all of us leaders here on the call quite well, and it is how we lead our teams, and it is how we approach our clients and how we continue to foster relationships with our within our organization and beyond. So yes, I would say that we wonderful women, or what I would like to say is we wonder women, absolutely affect the growth and offerings here.
Thank you so much. And you touched upon a lot of interesting points, and so did Nishar. We're actually already a very diverse industry. There are far more women in the design industry. And I've been in studios when we had to struggle to tilt the balance the other way. We had to start looking around only for men, because I would be surrounded by a sea of women, and I was like, okay, what's happening here? And are all the men at site, or can we get more of them into the studio? So yes, you're right. I read the report that you're talking about. Neurodiversity and diversity and inclusivity in design offerings is something that we at WOD are also very interested in. That's a whole completely new chapter. And I completely agree that all of us have masculine and feminine traits. And I think there are positives to both genders having both of these traits equally. And that impacts how you think impacts how you design, and therefore our offerings. So thank you so much. Yep. Moving on, maybe diversity, more towards inclusivity. My next question is about exactly this, this typifying of male and female roles. And I think one of you mentioned that you have many verticals headed by many women. And I just wanted to understand, I did mention that our industry is very diverse, but there are still pockets of those which still tend to be male-centric. Should we let them be male-centric is another question, because maybe that's where our strengths lie and we should all play to our strengths. But just coming back to my question, do you think women leaders, having all of you women leaders in Space Matrix has empowered women and young girls across the firm? That is one. Obviously, I'm sure the answer is yes, but I'm sure you'll be able to throw more light. And has Space Matrix tried to increase women's representation in non-female centric roles, like site management, cost control, procurement, etc.? So Suzanne, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think the word empowerment is interesting. I actually looked it up in the industry, and that says giving power to. The thing is, we always had the power. sometimes we forget it. And as a, as an organization on that policy level, that guideline level, our ethics and our values, they eliminate the barriers, or they try to eliminate. They say it's not a fine line. Actually, you can't cross the line. We should be eliminating the barriers, to career advancements because of unconscious bias or discrimination. And our focus is always on capability and competency. And the idea is that you always had the power, go do it. Go do your things, and how can we actually elevate and help you more? So as women leaders, we absolutely have a role to play, because we lead by example and we model the behaviors, try as we might. We model the behaviors that we want our colleagues to model as well. And it's really like Abby said, bringing in that authentic leadership style. So throughout all of the levels, you will have a healthy representation, but traditionally you will also have that sector that has been more male dominated. I'd like to bring Tita in on that point.
Right. And while Pal was mentioning all the verticals, I was kind of scanning that who we have in the team. And Pal, surprisingly, it's not only women leaders we have talking about cost. Then you mentioned about procurement. I'll add finance, legal, everywhere. Not only we have women leaders, even in that whole workforce, there are so many young talents, young girls, right? They are forming the part of this whole workforce. One, uh, vertical, yes, what Suzanne was talking about, if I'm talking about site management, project management, yes, it is still a bit skewed, but we still have our female colleagues who have joined us as a head of projects in so many locations like Bangalore, right? And I can see them, they are actually always encouraging their team members, be it girls or these young boys who are there in the team, talking about the women. Since we are saying all these girls are so encouraged and empowered, always they have someone to look up to in all these diverse roles. So yes, it is somewhere part of our DNA that we are encouraging people. So there's no barrier there. You can go in whichever vertical you want to shine, you have an opportunity there.
So again, is that it eliminating the barriers part. I mean, it's not saying that we must have an equal representation, but if you have interest and you have capability and you're competent, or you want to learn, the training is there, the support is there. So we eliminate the barriers to entry.
That's great to know. And just the fact that it's possible, I think that's all you need to know. You just don't get kind of moved into one direction because that's what every other male or female before you did before that. And I think leading by example is the biggest thing that we can do for the youngsters, though I feel the youngsters are far more smarter and, let's say, empowered, more ambitious. They'll ask better questions than us. But yes, I think we have a lot of knowledge and experience to provide for them. Coming back to our industry, we're all in the design and design-led build realm. It's very, very demanding. Lots of time, lots of energy. There's a pitch every 2 minutes. There's a pitch landing on 22nd of December, which is needed to be filled up and presented by 7th of Jan. I'm sure all of you have been in those shoes. As women, we're often told that you can have it all. I'm always told that women are multitaskers, and I don't always believe into that. You should do what you're good at. Maybe some things you're very good at, and some things you're not very good at. Anyway, so I feel it's a little bit of a myth to have it all, but a healthy balance between home and family. We can't escape that we are women, we are mothers. We all go back home and we have different responsibilities. So all of you, or maybe let me go to Nishar first, and then I'm going to just leave it to two. If anybody else wants to pitch in, please feel free. Have you found the right balance between home and work? And does the firm have any home work policies? I'm not really talking about work from home right now. I'm just talking about work-life policies that have helped achieve this. Would be interesting to know which one of you found it all and who's struggling.
So I think it's a two-part loaded question, Payal. Let's separate two parts.
Let's
And the
separate
first
the
part,
two.
I want to talk about, sorry?
I said, let's separate the two. Let's go with the
Yes.
first part. Have you found a balance?
Right. So I think that how I would answer that question is, let's look at us as an individual, as women. We are multitaskers by nature, right? Whether it's productive or not is a separate conversation. And we want to prove our value in the team, in the organization. And bringing that into light is extremely essential. And I can tell that every ladies or women on the call today are going to relate with what I'm going to say, because we all juggle between these at some point, right? And our knee-jerk reaction is overcompensating, taking on more. Sometimes it's about control. But we are working really hard and we are rowing that boat really fast. And the idea here is that, you know, we really want everyone to know that we are adding value, right? If you're taking on more, then we are perceived as a worthy of advancement. That's been the perception, so a lot of time in our heads. And this rowing of boat, adding too much value, this needing to get it all done, and as you said, have it all, is exhausting, right? Like I'm exhausted by saying this myself. So I can only imagine that everybody at some point in our careers have felt that. And mid-career, we start to think that, I need to slow down. I do not want to do it anymore because we are tired. But I think if we really want to have it all, it's a choice, in my opinion. And going back to your question that can we have it all? I think we can, but it's a choice of how much makes you content. And we have to change our paradigm here a little bit, and shift here is to prove our value by scaling and multiplying our impact. And what that means is the only way you're going to do that is shifting your rowing in the right direction of the water flowing, right? And ask others to come along and row with you, and ask for support, ask for help. It's not all about holding on. You let go and, do it all. And, often we say united, we stand, divided we fall, and that's such an underrated quote, but it really is true when it comes to organization building, right? With collaboration, you are going to make the best of everything. Everybody will shine together, and when you pop the champagne bottle right on the top, you're not alone, you're with everybody there, right, to celebrate. So that's part one of these question. Now coming to the second part, whether Space Matrix have work-life policies. I would say more of an initiative than putting it as a policy, because a lot of these are, I would like to state some of them as creating a flexible leave policy or offering flexible scheduling. And I cannot speak for everybody, but in my humble personal experience, I'm in a very unique position where I have to continuously collaborate between US and Asia Pacific, right? And with that comes working in odd time zones, late night calls, or early morning meetings. And what I can tell based on my past 6 years of experience being in North America is that Space Matrix has actually offered me a great deal of flexibility, right? We are accountable for our own outcomes, we manage our own times, and basically treat the organization as our own. And that itself is empowering me to be more productive, to bring my worth on the table, and not be feeling pressured that I have to be putting my extra effort and row my boat very fast. So having said that, there are other policies as well, or other initiatives as well in the organization, which are um, including like having educational support. And I also wanted to bring this into a notice that often we think that these policies are policies equates to the policy of work-life balance actually equates to work in the job and life outside the job. It actually doesn't really mean that. It means engagement in any ways other than your core job or core responsibility, right? So that could be providing educational support, and you are engaging yourself in learning and development for your personal growth, and which Space Matrix obviously has a very set policies and play and made an engagement efforts for all of us to learn and develop in our personal growth factor. And there are certain policies like wave velocity, where we are focusing on wellness programs, yogas, mindfulness, and smaller committees take the ownership of that. And outside of that, obviously, there are team building exercises, like cooking together or having fun quiz, from different geographies, and everybody logs in, and we have just a fun session with each other. So those are also mentally creating that work life balance in your mindset. And programs like CSR, right, corporate social responsibility programs, which makes you feel good that you are doing beyond just your core job and making an impact in people's lives. So we have a very set program for CSR as well within Space Matrix, where different groups participate and motivate each other. So I think that's really what it is. It's
A lot.
slowing down as an individual and then focusing on these policies.
Yeah, so that's a lot of good stuff. I don't think you're doing anything wrong at all. Are you doing anything wrong? Everything is ticked off.
I would like to believe so.
Anoma, would you like to add to that?
Sure. So Payal, I can give you my personal perspective, given, I've transitioned um, as when I was not a mother, and then when I became a mother, and how Space Matrix supported me through that journey. And I'd like to say that I found balance in work and life through the policies and the flexibility, similar to what Nishar was talking about, that the company has provided. So it's not only that, but they have insurance, health insurance benefits, etc., to support you through when you need it, which a lot of organizations, very important for employees. And on a personal level, I've got the time to network and to time to create um, friends and relationships beyond work and within work that help long term, right? So colleagues, friends, family that I can reach out to anytime that I need help with my son, or when I'm traveling when I could, or when I'm working late. And it's a shared understanding with the family as well, along with my colleagues, where we share our professional goals as well as our personal goals. Weekends, we try and stick to spending time with family. Sometimes we have to work, but it's once in a while, and we set rules for ourselves and adhere to them. And generally within the organization, this culture of reciprocity exists, where people help each other, be it men or women, and it has helped the organization grow and become what it is today. On the self-care part, which Nishar was talking about, it is encouraged. We've been running marathons, taking part in games together, and that notion of you need to put your physical and mental health first before you can look after your families and your teams is very, very important and ingrained within the organization. This aspect of being uh, doing self-sacrifice is overrated and counterproductive, really. You just working and working and working, it's not going to get you anywhere. So there has to be a balance, and all of us have managed to achieve that. And it might look effortless, but it needs a lot of discipline and follow through, which all of us as individuals and me personally are putting, a focus into.
That's very, very laudable, and thank you for giving your personal inputs as well. You spoke about the choice between motherhood and professional growth. So I think all of us have uh, gone through that. I can absolutely, it's coming out to me very, very clearly that Space Matrix is already very evolved. And that's a very good thing, because that's what this whole initiative is about, to talk more and to have, I think everybody's doing their bit. Almost all design firms, or in our industry, all firms are doing their bit. But it's either baby steps, or it's all somewhere in the journey. I'm thrown back now to 2007-8, when I was looking out for a job, and I had a 4-year-old at home. And I remember going for the interview, and I said, I'm very responsible, but I may have to run out for an hour and a half, and what will get done? And I was told that no, uh, growth and bonuses and advancement is provided to people who sit late at office. Anybody who leaves office at 6 is out. So, and I moved to the next firm, where I decided to bring my daughter to the office, and she continued to do that for a lot of years. And everybody, all other mothers started bringing their kids to work. So I think you need to have the right mindset to be able to think what is required. And Anuma, what you said about mental health is so good. You know, we all feel burnout. We know how our industry is, how demanding our clients are, especially in this side of the world. So I think that's absolutely wonderful initiatives that all of you are speaking about at Space Metrics.
And Payal, I'd like to add to that as well. From what you said, we are such a, we're all such high achievers. I think women in general, and you know, it's not all been a whole bed of roses. And when we say, do we have it all? Well, it takes work. And what I've also found useful is it's okay to not be okay. You don't always have to be on tip top. And I would say to every single woman here and my colleagues, all four of them, that if something is not right, I can go to each of them to actually tell them and ask them, can you help me, please? Because I'm not doing so well. Could you help me? And it's okay to not be okay. And I think that's important to add as well. There'll be days that don't work so well, and you'll have that dip. And it's really the social bonds. And because we know each other, you go that extra mile. I will help you. You know, I can help you. It's okay. Yeah. So that's just that little excerpt.
Yeah, we do that a lot, right? we'll call each other up and say, I need an ear. I need someone
I
to
need
speak.
an ear. I need advice. Yeah, and you know, for me, as I said, I'm the newest, and I have my sages, Anoma, Chitta. You know, they've been in the organization. They're my sages, and it's very comforting to have that support. Maybe we're more open to do that as women. Yeah.
We should get some men in next time to ask those questions as well. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to give you the next one, maybe followed by Abby. This is more an overarching, little more global thought about awareness about gender bias and discrimination. I know all of us think of ourselves as professionals first and women later. I know I do myself, and I think I heard it from you. You know, sexual orientation, gender comes second for us. Maybe it's not happening in the same way as the person who's in front of us, who's judging us, clients, superiors, whoever. So my question is, all across the globe and in society, a lot of work still needs to be done uh, about creating awareness about bias, gender bias, and gender discrimination at the workplace. So, what do you think Space Matrix could do better in creating this awareness and maybe truly becoming an inclusive organization? It's good to be diverse, but how do we really get to that true inclusivity? Are you already there, or do you need to do something more to get there? And how do you create awareness? Suzanne, I'll go with you first and then followed by Abby.
I love your segue into this because as a group, actually, we discussed this because we were looking at our own statistics. You know, whatever we have measured, our percentage, how many women, and that's just diversity. That's how diverse we are. Number of nationalities, number of women in different positions. But there's the I in D&I, which is the inclusivity part. And you know, we like to think about inclusion in the workplace as being similar to humility. Everyone wants to admit that they have it, but in reality, we know we can do better. And whilst we strive for that diversity in our organization with all the statistics, there is no diversity without inclusion, and it is separate. Creating an inclusive workplace culture is very different from creating a diverse company culture. It's the lexicon, but there are differences. And we all know that diversity leads to better teams, better performance, greater innovation. But inclusion, I'll bring in that psychology bit, it's Inclusion is what connects people to the organization. It's what sticks, and it's what's going to make me stay. And that's what organizations are striving for. I read this analogy. I like to bring this up. Imagine you're hosting a dinner party, and every guest has their own set of preferences. Some are vegetarian, some are vegan, pescatarians, allergic to nuts, dairy intolerant. But here's the problem. You have a set menu. It's one of those private kitchens. You know, it's a set menu, or you're on a plane, beef, chicken, fish. But even unknowingly, because of that, you've managed to alienate half your guests. Unknowingly, it wasn't intentional. It's beautiful, it's set. Seeing that problem, you made a few changes the next time you hosted a dinner, and the following week, and the week after that, until finally you create a menu that every guest manages to enjoy. So the thing is, diversity is getting a dinner invitation. Inclusion is making sure everyone enjoys the meal. You get a seat around the table. And so
that's a lovely analogy.
I love this analogy.
Yeah, so that was what we were talking about with Abby. Oh.
I love this analogy because it becomes one of those things where it makes it so tangible, and it makes it so, you know, this topic that is, you know, everyone is talking about, right? And everyone should be talking about. But it just really brings it down to a level that everybody can understand. So thank you for sharing that. And I didn't mean, do you have something else to add? I kind of jumped in there.
No, it's okay. All good. Yeah, I was just sort of the idea that we kept talking about diversity, but as a group, we started realizing, hang on, we actually have to bring inclusivity, because when we talk about what else can we do, it's not just about numbers, then it's about what else. So yeah.
Exactly right. Just to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do have in place at Space Matrix. We do have at our onboarding an ethics and training app, which everyone must participate in. It's quite fun. It uses game theory. We also have a non-tolerance policy around discrimination. We have a POSH policy, which is prevention of sexual harassment. And then we also issue an annual pulse survey to all of the employees to get feedback on various topics across the globe. So yes, we are doing some things, but are we doing everything? No, of course, there's always improvement in this area. It requires continuous work. It is definitely work in progress. This conversation alone has been great because it's actually brought some of these things to the forefront from us and had us brainstorming of what can we do more, what can we do better. And you know, I think some of the things that came up for us is just making sure that we can continue to provide a safe space for communication that anyone can come to, right? To continue to bring more awareness around this topic of unconscious bias. We've talked kind of throughout this past hour already about some advancements that we've made organically in terms of gender equality. But we know it's going to take some renewed energy and determination to continue to build upon these successes. We need to track and we need to measure the change, and we need to really continue the momentum. This one particular mantra, and I think this is coming from Suzanne, particularly, you love this mantra, what gets measured gets done, right? And it's true, right? So for us, kind of continuing along this path, making sure that we do make a conscious effort to measure our advancements, and that we understand progress around inclusivity, and we can really kind of shape and determine our future goals with that.
Thank you so much. I think unconscious gender bias is very dangerous, and it's a very big piece to tackle. It's not easy. Children, I mean, I'm sure all across the world are now taught about good sexual touch and bad sexual touch when they're in kindergarten. But we don't talk about this. You know, it's all of us go through our lives, and some of us don't see any bias at all, and some of us see bias.
Yeah.
So it's our duty as leaders to increase awareness. So I look forward to maybe having you all next year, and then you can tell me what more has been done by
Would love that.
Thank you so much. We're doing well on time. We have a question and answer session, a fun one, and I'm seeing we're a little tight, but it's good. We had the good meatier questions completed, so I'm happy with that. Few surprise questions coming your way. I'm going to finish that in maybe 5 minutes, and then we can go to closing remarks. I'm going to go to Harsha. So Suzanne, you're the newest member. You've mentioned that a couple of times. Who's been working among this group at Space Matrix the longest? It's a very easy question.
Titter.
Titir, is that right? Among all of you, you're the oldest
No.
serving member?
Noma.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's a Noma.
Between the two of you, it was either one.
I'm going to go to the next one. Maybe I will pick Nishar and I'm going to ask her to tell me what Abby does in her free time. What's her favorite pastime or her passion?
Oh boy. So when she came to New York, I think she visited a lot of restaurants, maybe. So I would say she likes to do a restaurant hopping. Abby just say yes. Abby just agreed to it.
What's your favorite pastime in your free time? Did she get that right?
I mean, that's definitely one of them for sure. Anything around food, social, yes.
I'll just have one last one, which I'm going to just throw it open to any of you. Tell me one funny anecdote, which was quite a faux pas at that moment, but then later became an anecdote which you all laughed at. Anybody did something in some meeting or at work or at home? Does anything come to mind?
I think I know one which Titir should share. Titir, go ahead and share how you welcome our CEO in the organization. Titir being Titir, you have to share this with the world.
Titir, over to you.
Right. So it was really a funny one. Yeah, my first interaction, and I'm very bad with names. Okay, I mix up names. So just the first letter and all names sound same to me. So I actually mixed it up, and I thought he's someone from vendor side. And my whole conversation had been around that, right? So asking for something, and then my conversation is like, it was a super confusing conversation. At the end of it, like it was a 10 minutes conversation. Till then also, I didn't realize who I'm talking to. So I remember I calling him back after an hour or so. It was, and we both laughed it out like anything. So a good icebreaker, but yeah, I have many such stories. So we have no end to it.
That's a good one. It's like one of those episodes, identity confusion. Great.
Oh.
My last one. Any of you can tell me anybody else's quirk, something really funny, which not many people outside know about you, or something very great, something very positive, which is not related to work? Because here we're only talking about work and Space Matrix and collaborations.
I think something which I learned just a few days ago was actually Abby and I have gone to same school, same university in Germany, which I had no idea. And while you're talking, the virtual world becomes very strange when you are starting to talk. It becomes work conversation, and then you log off right away. But I just learned that she and I have gone to same school, actually, out of all the coincidences.
I woke up to a Google Hangout from Nishar and I was like, what? quite crazy.
Great. So does anyone have anything else to share? We have exactly 10 minutes to go. Anything, funny, quirky, quirks? I can't believe none of you have any quirks.
We are good at hiding, Pile. Let's put it that way.
Great.
Pile, they're not being all open and honest here, isn't it? But this has been so much fun. I think the last bit, this whole fun game, we should do that more often, Pile. because everyone's just kind of laughing in their head saying, who's going to say it, isn't it? Who's going to be the first one to say
I'm going to
it?
pass it to Susan. Susan, what do you do in your free time, which is completely unconnected to your work?
I
Has
study.
nothing to do with from work to study. Give
I
me something
study.
fun.
I dream about traveling. I do armchair traveling. I sing. I cook.
Wow.
But seriously, in terms of like anthropology and history, one funny quirk. I started studying Egyptology. Because I couldn't travel, I started studying all about different cultures. And one of them was doing a course in Egyptology, archaeology, and secretly, if I often ask myself, well, I don't often, but I have asked myself if I had the ideal career, or if I could redo everything, what would I want to be? And I always thought I wanted to be an explorer. I don't know what I'll be exploring, but the idea was to just travel all around the world and learn about different cultures and write about it. Yeah, that's my secret ambition. Who knows where I'll end up?
Can I be your sidekick in that journey?
Absolutely, you can all come. And Anoma is a painter. She's an artist. She's a ceramist. She really is a true artist, and she is going to share with us something as well to close. I'd like to honor her with that.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, so one of my not so hidden traits is that I write as well. And I've been writing for many years, since I've been a teenager. So, just some final thoughts to the younger audience and the other women out there. Takeaways would be that it's all about attitude. And there's a very nice quote from Clement Stone that I'd like to quote before I go into a poem. Clement Stone says that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And therefore, we should just go for it. And always, so I spoke about attitude, and there's also gratitude. So attitude and gratitude are basically interlinked, and a person's success is always connected to so many others. So a few years ago, I was having a discussion on this topic with one of my colleagues, in fact, while we were waiting for our Grab taxis to come. And we were standing by the office door, and there was sunlight coming through the glass doors. And I have written this poem called Grain of Gold, which talks about a positive mindset. Here goes. Refracted light through the glass doors that sway, I held a rainbow in my palm today. Turned around to hear you say, I wish instead I had the pot of gold, that which lies on the other side. To that I said, what if this already is the other side? And today your grain of gold. With that you smiled and let your crossed arms unfold. Thank you.
That's something amazing.
Very nice. Lovely.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that summed it up a lot, right? Anoma, it summed up what we've been talking today, isn't it? What if we are already on that other side and we are empowered? Why are we talking about empowering women, right? So thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think if you could please email it to me as well, because we would be doing a cover up. Joanna, who writes a cover up article about all our events, would love to involve that in it. So please share it. But thank you guys. I mean, Paul did a fab job, but I was itching. I just wanted to put my camera on and get on there because I wanted to be a part of it. It was so much fun, and there was so much energy, so much honesty as well. So I could see through. I mean, we speak to organizations, and everyone talks about oh, we have this D&I policy and we have this policy. But what's the reality? How do you make use of that policy? I mean, really tell us what goes on behind the doors. And you guys shared that with us. So thank you for sharing everything. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure everyone else did, because there's so much chat going on in the chat box, which I'll share with you guys later on. I love the beginning, actually, the pivot point where you all shared your stories, because that's the truth. That's where we all started from, right? And we've all had almost similar journeys. Like myself and Payal have been in the industry as well for more than 20 years now. Similar sort of journey like Nishar and Anoma, and starting as designers, moved on to the business side of things. Um, but what Nishar said about her dad quoting that if our dreams don't scare us, they're of no use, right? And I think we all dare to dream. That's the biggest reality. We all dare to dream. But I would also like to just kind of quickly pick on the point that Suzanne made, which was so true, that we all talk about empowering women, right? And I try not to say that. I try not to say that because I absolutely believe in what you said. We don't need empowering. We all are powerful. We just need that realization, right? And that is why we are having these conversations. These conversations are our way of spreading that awareness, bringing that awareness, that realization amongst ourselves that we are powerful and we could do a lot more than what we could do, or be satisfied with what we have, right? Make that choice that Nisha was talking about. I know we've got just 5 more minutes. I'm going to try and see if I heard one of you said that your CEO, global CEO, is on this call. And I don't know, I'm not putting him under spotlight here, but if he is here, we've heard all the good things, right? You girls have all been like, yes, it's all positive and we've been well supported. It's been an organic growth, right? And this is to Arsh Chaudhary, if you are still with us, Arsh, and if you would like to join in. Um, the ladies here said that it has been an organic growth, and there hasn't been, it's not been like a planned thing that let's have more women leaders, right? But you've been doing something right. Arsh, would you like to say something on that? You surely have done something right. You have
Sure.
so many women and so many women talking positively about what you're doing. So I hope you don't mind me asking this, but would you
No,
like to
you
share?
put me in a spot here. Can you
That was
hear
your
me?
idea.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Arsh, go on.
Okay. So firstly, I'm outside. I didn't realize I was going to be speaking, so I'm actually cycling, listening to everybody. Truth be told, so I've just parked my bicycle, and I'm taking this call. So talk about quirky things to be doing off of work. So that's what I was up to. Um, so I think to me, the whole concept of organic uh, growth and diversity, actually, it never really occurred to me that there was any other way to be, any other way to create an ecosystem. When I was growing up, my mother was a school teacher. She used to work. She was a principal. My dad was in the army, so respect and fairness. I saw a working mom. She was a car rally driver when I was at the age, I think I was 8 or 9, and she was doing car rallies. So it was all very normal for me that I was surrounded by women that had careers, meaningful careers. And I've always maybe grew up in that bubble, quite honestly, through school and college until I got to the workforce, when I started realizing the power of diversity. Um, Early on in my career, I got an opportunity to move to the US out of India, which is where I was the odd one out. I was the diverse one, and I could see the kind of impact one can make when uh, you get into a ecosystem which is very skewed. So coming from a brokerage world which was very white, male dominated, very New York centric, And that's how, my previous organization used to be run. It was a very, it was a view to run a global organization from one standpoint, from one point of view. And it made us realize here in Asia that that's not the right way of doing things. You cannot have one point of view and run organizations or create cultures. Diversity is absolutely critical. Whether a lot of a lot of my colleagues today spoke about diversity, not just in gender, but more importantly in thinking, and I think that is absolutely critical. So that's how we've really gone about building the organization, and it's gender consciously does not play a part in selecting leaders. I think we have never done that as an organization. It is who is doing what. It's always very easy to say, okay, just for diversity and inclusion, put X percentage of people, should be women leaders in the organization. And I think that's the wrong way to do it, because if you go down that path and you end up giving somebody a position and that person does not succeed, then you've actually defeated the whole point of creating a sustainable organization. Rather, a better way to do it is to give equal opportunities and foster that culture where there's fairness and equality, and more importantly, as Suzanne said, inclusion in for everyone. So that's what we've done. It's not magic. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit of careful planning, and this is a culture that's permeated across the organization. Honestly, it's not me. It's every country manager and every city head within each of the countries that work like this. So yeah, thank you so much for having me and putting me on the spot here.
We would let you continue with your cycling. No, but thank you for pitching in. It's just good to have the other side get in, right? I mean, we women talking about all of this, but we are trying to bring more men into the conversation. And I believe as a global CEO, you do play a big part in maybe not selecting or not just, as you said, having a percentage of women on board, but once they are on board, fostering that culture, supporting them. And, even what we're doing today, you are supporting these women by just being on this call. I think that's a big thing too. So thank you for sharing with us. And thank you all you lovely, wonderful ladies for joining us. We are going to continue with the WLO session. We would be doing more with other organizations, women-led organizations, but also we would invite more of your colleagues from Space Metrics to join us for the next one. So it was lovely. Thank you once again for joining us, and we would surely do a cover-up article and share it with all you guys. And thank you to the audience for joining in. Payal, thank you.
Everyone, I feel like I can continue this conversation with each one of you.
Sure.
Pick up one of those answers and keep diving in, but we're sadly we're out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for a wonderful conversation.
Surely. And Suzanne, we should have that dinner that you were talking about, where we have a mix of people around the table. Love that analogy. I'm going to so use it every time now on. So thank you guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Have a lovely day, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Bye.
Bye.